Tonight we're in Brecon. Welcome to Question Time. On tonight's panel, Theresa Villiers, the former Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, a Tory backbencher who backs Boris Johnson in the current leadership contest. Elected as a Labour MP in 2015, he previously worked for the British Council in Russia, Sierra Leone and Brussels. Stephen Kinnock. Adam Price, leader of Plaid Cymru since last September and a former MP who was elected to the Welsh Assembly in 2016. Mark Reckless, formerly a Conservative MP who left the party to join UKIP and is now leader of the Brexit Party in the Welsh Assembly. And award-winning international comedian, author and political campaigner Francesca Martinez. To our panel, to our audience here, and of course to you at home. You can argue along in the usual way using hashtag BBCQT on Facebook, on Twitter and on Instagram. Join in the conversation. Let's kick off with our first question, which tonight is from Stephen Thomas.
Thank you. Are broken promises, gaffes and hanging from a zip wire the criteria for becoming the next Prime Minister?
I can't think who you mean, Stephen. I think we might be talking about Boris Johnson here. Stephen, do you want to kick us off?
Well, I think we are in an extraordinary situation and, I disagree with just about everything the Conservative Party has ever stood for, but they are one of the oldest political parties in the world and one of the most important, whether we like it or not. And I think it is deeply disturbing now that they are on the point of electing a right-wing populist as their leader. They are on the point of electing someone who claims that he's going to be a unity figure, but has referred to Muslim women as letterboxes. A man who has talked about black people having lower IQs than the rest of us. A man who has also claimed that he should be elected on the basis of his competence. And yet he is the person that spent £43 million on a vanity project for a bridge where not a single brick was laid. He commissioned some buses where the back door didn't work properly, and that had to get scrapped. He commissioned a water cannon where it's illegal to actually use them, and he claims that he has the competence. And worse than all, of course, when he was Foreign Secretary, his careless words, the man who was supposed to be the head of Britain's diplomatic service, his careless words ended up with a woman, Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, being locked up in Iran for far longer than usual. He is absolutely not fit to be the Prime Minister of this country, and the fact that he's going to be elected by 120,000 members of the Conservative Party, let's face it, not exactly a representative sample of the population of the United Kingdom, is a democratic and a constitutional and a national political outrage.
I think it's actually about 160,000, but we hear you.
Give or take.
Theresa Villiers, you're backing Boris Johnson.
Yes.
Did he really say that black people have a lower IQ?
No, there was a reference to that in an article that was published in The Spectator. It was not written by Boris, so I want to correct that. The reason why I'm supporting Boris to be the next Prime Minister of this country is because he will lead from the centre ground, and his record as Mayor of London demonstrates that.
Actually, can we just talk about that for a minute? Because he talked in his campaign launch yesterday about how he was a man who kept his promises, and he cited his record as Mayor of London. I was just looking at some things. You mentioned some of them, Stephen. He pledged to end rough sleeping in the capital by 2012. This was in 2009. In fact, the number of rough sleepers doubled by 2015. He campaigned against Ken Livingstone's plans to close London Underground ticket offices, signing a pledge to keep them open, and then just 4 years later he announced he was closing them all. That's not keeping his promises, is it?
But the reality is that he, on those issues, on ticket offices, they took a difficult decision, but I think that reflected the huge advance in technology that came with the Oyster system. It meant that ticket offices were not needed in the way that they had previously. But his record is very clear. He saw the murder rate fall by 50%, crime overall fell by 20%, knife crime came down by 17%, and he managed to cut taxes by 20% as well. This is a significant record of delivery. We need someone as Prime Minister who will get a grip on crime, as he managed to do when he was Mayor of London. That's one of the many reasons why I think he is capable of being the right leader for this country.
And can I just ask you, because there's been a little bit of confusion about exactly where he stands on suspending Parliament if he can't get a Brexit deal through. What has he said to you? Has he ruled out proroguing or suspending Parliament
well,
if he can't get the deal through?
That's absolutely not the plan that he's putting forward.
No, but has he ruled it out, or is it still on the table?
I'm not aware that he's completely ruled it out, but
so it's possible.
His goal is to get better terms from the European Union and present that agreement to Parliament. If the European Union are not prepared to offer better terms, then we are still living on the 31st of October, deal or no deal.
Even if he has to suspend Parliament to do so?
Well, I believe that I think a determined Prime Minister can take us out on the 31st of October. I'm not convinced that Parliament would be able to frustrate that, regardless of the issue of prorogation.
Adam Price.
Well, you know, I think Rory Stewart summed it up today, didn't he? Say you wouldn't want to have him anywhere near the nuclear button, would you? I mean, it seems his handlers don't even want him anywhere near a TV studio. I mean, they don't have any confidence in him. He's created over the years, hasn't he, this sort of Boris brand of being, a bit of a hapless maverick. But, don't believe it. I mean, he's far cleverer than that. I mean, he's a modern Machiavelli in a clown costume. I mean, remember that the article that he wrote, one for leave, one for remain, and he decided at the last minute which was most politically expedient for him. I mean, this is a man that sees politics as a kind of extension of an Oxford Union debate. It doesn't really matter what side you're on. The only thing that matters is that you win. I mean, it's a disaster that's about to befall us, He'll almost certainly be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, but he'll probably be the last, because I don't see the Scottish sticking around for this. Probably the Northern Irish will leave as well, and if we Welsh had any sense, we'll declare ourselves an independent country because the alternative of the United Kingdom under Boris Johnson, of all people, I think is too horrible for us to imagine.
Let's hear from the audience. The man there in the glasses.
Boris Johnson, right, could zip wire into Brussels and like a wrecking ball and make no difference at all. Our Parliament is gridlocked and stuck. So whoever the few of the Tories elect as a leader, the first thing that should be done, I believe, is a general election. To get people in that want to make change. And listen and answer the questions that the people want.
OK. Man there in the glasses.
Yeah, he's also promised 350 million a week to the NHS, but it looks like that's all going to go on tax cuts to the well-off instead.
I'll come back to that. The woman in the front in the glasses, yeah.
It appears that the first thing he wants to do is a tax cut for everybody over 50,000 and leaving everybody else behind. How is that centre ground?
Susie, your mouth's getting a bit of a pasting. Would you like to...
Well, I want to provide some reassurance on the National Health Service. The commitment that the government has made to a £20 billion increase in real-term spending on the NHS in England, with equivalent £1.2 billion for Wales, that delivers over £380 million per week. So that promise is being fulfilled. We fully recognise that we need to fund our NHS generously because we are asking our NHS to do more to care for us as we all get older.
But his tax cut for the rich would actually cut about £450 million from the Welsh budget for all the public services, I mean, where's the justice in that? I mean, he was talking in his launch about actually, creating a more equal Britain, and yet the first policy that he actually pronounces is putting money even further into the deep pockets of the richest people in the United Kingdom. Where's the social justice there?
Look, for many years, more and more people have been brought into the higher rate of tax. I think it's not unreasonable to rebalance that to help people, for example, senior police officers, GPs, senior nurses. I don't think it's so wrong to want people to be able to keep a little bit more of their own money.
If you want to see real economic pain, I'll take you, Theresa, to some of the streets and the villages in Wales. If you want to see real poverty, it's not those higher rate earners that need the handout and the helping hand from government. It's the people that are really suffering. What about the jams that Theresa May was talking about?
Absolutely, Boris's programme will deliver for people at all income levels.
Okay.
The Conservatives.
Theresa, that's not the response you wanted, is it? Should we... You're having to take everything here for Boris and answer all of it. Let's just hear from some other people in the panel. Mark?
Well, I think it will depend on whether Boris can deliver Brexit. Now, he talks a good game. He led the Leave campaign and he led it very well. But then he left the field of play. His record as Foreign Secretary wasn't terribly successful. And he is now saying that, deal or no deal, we will leave the European Union by the 31st of October.
And if he does, is there any point in the Brexit party?
Well, I would like to believe him. It will depend on what he does. He talks a very good game, but will he deliver? We've heard Theresa May say 108 times that we were going to leave the European Union on the 29th of March this year. We did not do so. So I think we need to start counting how often Boris Johnson is saying that he's going to take us out on the 31st of October. Because that's what he needs to say to win the Conservative leadership. But will he actually deliver?
Francesca?
I'm not a massive fan of Boris. I think the fact we call him Boris kind of makes out that he's cuddly and like your mate. But he isn't. This is a really dangerous man. When he was London mayor, he closed 10 fire stations, and that led to a lot more fire-related deaths. And also, I don't think the NHS is really safe in his hands, because he's been on record saying that people should pay more for NHS services. So I think when we're looking at politicians, we shouldn't listen to what they say. We should look at their voting records and their actions. But I got to say the biggest reason that I'm not a fan of Boris is because he's backed austerity policies again and again. And I don't know if this is widely reported, but austerity has caused the deaths of over 130,000 human beings in Britain. That is absolutely outrageous. That's 130,000 mums, dads, daughters, sons, uncles, aunts who've died because the Tories and the Lib Dems decided to make ordinary people pay for a crash caused by bankers who we bailed out. My final point, as a wobbly woman, I really have to highlight the tens of thousands of disabled people and sick people who have died after being found fit for work. Now, we are one of the richest countries in the world, and this is absolutely outrageous. Even the UN has called Tory welfare reform a violation of disabled people's rights. So I want to remind everyone here that anyone can become disabled or sick at any time. And right now, this government is taking away the safety net that we have fought for collectively over decades to help those in need. And I think whatever your politics, you can agree that punishing disabled people and sick people for falling on hard times is absolutely morally wrong, and they have blood on their hands.
I just want to point out that obviously the only person defending Boris Johnson so far is Theresa, who's been in the hot seat here. He has done extraordinarily well today in the leadership contest, 114 votes. Is there anyone here in the audience who supports Boris Johnson? Yes, the woman there, you stuck your hand up. Yes.
I think you should suspend Parliament. I think that the people of the country want Brexit to go through, and as up until now, nobody is standing up and actually doing what the people want.
And you think he's the man to do it?
Are just sticking their spoke in the wheel all the time.
Anyone else here who supports Boris Johnson? Yes, the man there in the check shirt.
I think at the moment we desperately need anybody who can unite this country. We're in a mess. We've never been in a mess like this probably since the 30s. It's quite desperate.